The king of Chambord wasn't the only one who did this within the 244 affiliated kingdoms. Helping the soldiers to find women was a method that many kings believed to be the most effective in terms of relieving stress and raising morale. On Azeroth continent, satisfying the soldiers was one of the ancient traditions. Many powerful empires would have a number of so-called comfort women in the military. These women were there either voluntarily or being forced. Some of them were from poor households, some of them were from big families that had collapsed, and some of them were slaves of wars. The military would compensate them in little amounts for letting the soldiers and low-level officials venting off their stress. Even though this was a tradition, a lot of people in the camp area were shocked by the king of Chambord's generosity. The women in the campsite of Chambord were from a place called Golden Cave. The king of Chambord had spent hundreds of thousands of gold coins to invite them here. It was heard that these women would stay at Chambord's campsite until the competition was over. Before that, they would be comforting the soldiers of Chambord who were in a state of high stress. After seeing this, even the princes of various affiliated kingdoms wanted to become a part of Chambord to indulge themselves in these seductive women. The Golden Cave in St. Petersburg was a place that many men wanted to visit, but most of them weren't qualified and rich enough to enter. In Chambord's campsite, after one dance was over, the drummer changed the music. The passionate women started to invite the soldiers who were sitting on the side clapping to dance with them. Faced with the invitation, the northern men who were from the remote region were a little shy. After the encouragement from everyone, a few brave bylaw enforcement officers got up and participated in the dances with a blush on their faces. Faced with the beautiful, nicely dressed, and sweet-scented women, the brave men of Chambord who weren't afraid of charging into enemies were timid. Even Pierce and Drogba, who were bold, were a little stiff when they were dancing. Faye, who was half lying on the central stone throne, tried his best to hold back his prankster-like smile after seeing this. This idea wasn't Faye's. The first person who made this recommendation was the old man Zolask. He was the person who had the most experience with everything. When Faye first heard it, he was shocked. "Wouldn't I be like a pimp?" he thought. After Zolask explained the honor tradition of Azeroth continent to Faye, Faye really thought about it. With the medical knowledge he got from his previous life, he was afraid that the soldiers of Chambord might get STDs if they couldn't hold back and went for the cheap prostitutes in the camp area. There would be more issues associated with that. Also, if he ordered the soldiers from stop engaging in such activity, it would be too cruel for his men. After some thoughts, Faye decided to go all in and invited a lot of women from the Golden Cave by using a lot of money and the connection with manager Redknapp of Soros Merchant Group. He decided to take care of this issue once for all. Our men can defeat the strongest enemies, and they can also enjoy the most expensive women. When Redknapp first heard the request, he was stunned for a while. Afterward, he had to double confirm with Faye about his requests before it was taken care of. The crackling noises of the fire were loud, and the party was at its climax. Gradually, the northern men got comfortable with some help from the alcohol, and the atmosphere was lively as it was filled with laughter. Faye was smiling like a kid as he watched. At this moment, he felt like he wasn't a king who enjoyed the noble status in the empire, but rather an old folk who liked to gossip with neighbors. Angela was wearing the furry coat made from the fur of the blue fox, and she was sitting next to Faye quietly. The big coat fitted her well. It didn't look fat. Rather, it contrasted with the long and white neck of the girl. The sweet smile on the girl's beautiful white face was mesmerizing in the light of the campfire. The future queen was picking out fruits from the basket in front of her and feeding them into Faye's mouth. Originally, a lot of women from the Golden Cave wanted to seduce the king who was rich and handsome. If they were liked by this king who just got really famous, their fate as prostitutes would change forever. But after they saw the girl who was so beautiful that it was breathtaking, they all gave up on the idea of inviting the king to a dance. Behind a wooden table on the right-hand side of the king, there was a girl who had long curly brown hair. Her hair looked smooth and soft. The girl was mysterious as the lower half of her face was covered with a white veil that was decorated with golden strands. Her eyes were bright as stars in the night. Her hairpin had red, green, and blue gems on it, and there was a golden butterfly badge on her silver silk crown. This girl's presence had mystery written all over it. There were 4 warriors in shiny armors standing behind her. The Milan armors were made from steel, and their helmets covered most of their faces. Their eyes that were behind the T-shaped nose guards seemed chilling. It was obvious that these men were powerful. They were the guards of this girl. When Faye first met the girl, he thought she was a noble lady. It wasn't just because of the way she dressed. Her presence was also on par with all kinds of noble lady Faye had met. Although her face was veiled, people who met her all felt like she was a beauty. However, after Redknapp introduced Faye to her, Faye realized that this girl was a madam, aka female pimp. It was quite shocking. Faye had observed the girl for a while, and he could tell that this girl's identity was very special. During the whole time, she sat quietly behind the table. It was quite different from the type of madams Faye knew that were toady and snobbish. The party was still continuing. Faye called Czech over and reminded him of a few important things. After that, Faye stood up and went back to the central tent with Angela, Emma, and the 8 girls. By him sitting there as the king, the soldiers were a little constrained. Therefore, he decided to go back first. What Faye didn't find out was that the mysterious madam who was sitting behind the table stared at his back with a strange emotion in her pretty eyes when he went back to the tent. After returning to the central tent, Faye chatted with Angela a bit more. After his fiancée fell asleep, Faye started his training in Diablo World again. Both Akira and Kane were busy alternating between the mysterious stone room and Chambord University in the back mountains of Chambord. During this time, Chambord's construction was taking place slowly and steadily. A portion of the content of Demon King's Wisdom was translated by Akira, and the construction plan of Chambord was greatly altered. Chambord was being built in a way that was unimaginable before. After reading the letter that Brooke and Bast sent to him, Faye got the idea that Chambord was going to become a Pearl of the North. The study and decryption of the mysterious symbols in the stone room was still ongoing. Akira and Kane spent a lot of time on this, and they were making good progress. However, since it was still quite far from total decryption, Faye only asked some simple questions to understand what was going on. He was able to wait until the mystery was unveiled and then ask more questions. After learning about potions from Akira for 15 minutes and learning about the magic theories of Diablo World and the real world from Kane for 15 minutes, Faye spent the leftover 4 hours with Elena on killing monsters and leveling up. After 4 hours, Faye's barbarian character got to level 54. Faye's strength was increasing at an insane speed. During battles, Faye had been carefully practicing control, spiral force, hidden force overlay, and the skills of the barbarian. The 5th strike of Skyfrost Fist was being completed and perfected gradually, and Faye was able to defeat demons faster. Some of the ordinary barbarian skills deal extra damage in Faye's hands. All of these contributed to his fast cultivation. Even Faye felt like his talent in terms of cultivation was a little too sick. On both notes from Emperor Yasin, they emphasized that patience was important as it was hard to get all of the key points easily. It was also hard to pass through all the thresholds. However, when Faye tried, it was easy. As soon as he read the notes, his body was able to do exactly what the notes said. There was nothing in his way. Faye also tried to teach Elena about the granular control and spiral force, but it seemed like Elena had a hard time understanding and comprehending the information. Faye was confused since Elena was really smart, but he couldn't figure it out. When Faye left Diablo World, it was already late at night. Angela and Emma were in their deep sleep, so were the 8 girls who acted as maids. Faye walked out of the central tent, and a cold wind blew at him. The winter was getting colder and colder. The camp area was finally getting quiet, and only a few lights and torches were on. There were still some people walking on the street at this time though. The party in Chambord's campsite was over. There were a few more fancy and golden new tents in the campsite. Those were the temporary residents of the women from St. Petersburg. Although these tents weren't magic items, they weren't cheaper than Chambord's tents. Golden patterns and symbols filled the tents, and the tents looked luxurious. There was one tent that was smaller and more luxurious than the others. It was the residence of that mysterious madam. Even at this time, Chambord's guard didn't go down. There were 50 bylaw enforcement officers who were patrolling the campsite with armors and weapons, and the checkpoints and watchtowers were filled with soldiers. The protection of Chambord didn't fall back because of the victory during the day and the party during the night. Faye saw Checkpeter, who was in a black cape, watching the night, and he also saw Pierce and Drogba, who were patrolling around the river in the cold. Faye was satisfied with what he saw. He nodded and switched to assassin mode. Without catching anyone's attention, he dashed towards Moro Mountains as he passed through numerous checkpoints and campsites. Moro Mountains, huge pit battlefield. Under the starlight, the mysterious warrior stood on a huge piece of rock on the edge of the battlefield. Behind him, there were a ton of beautiful firework-like, colliding warrior energies. This peaceful yet explosive scenery looked strangely mesmerizing. Without moving, the mysterious man watched Faye as he tried to get through the most powerful magic array in the area by using that ugly dance. Although this mysterious man was used to the king of Chambord getting through magic arrays this way, he still had to praise Faye in his mind. What Faye didn't know was that the mysterious warrior returned to the battlefield last night after he left. The man tried to mimic Faye's strange movement and get past a magic array. Although this man was much more powerful than Faye, he was only able to last 1 minute. After that, he couldn't control his muscles granularly and triggered a magic pathing. The mysterious warrior had many ways of getting into the huge pit battlefield without triggering the magic arrays, but they were very different from Faye's method, which was insane and unimaginable. This made the mysterious man rate Faye even higher. A cold breeze blew by. After Faye got through the magic array, he forced himself to use the methods in the purple scroll to train his spiritual power, despite the fact that his body was sore and his head hurt a little from depleting the spiritual power. Also, he was sitting in front of the mysterious man. He was showing all of his vulnerability points. However, the mysterious man was shocked once more. Although his expression looked calm, he carefully observed Faye numerous times, as if he was looking at a monster. He did that because he found out that the king of Chambord's strength increased again. It was unbelievable. It seemed like all of the barriers and thresholds that normal warriors faced during the path of cultivation didn't exist. It seemed like if this king wanted, he could get stronger rapidly. The mysterious man had only seen one other man achieve this kind of unimaginable results. Now, the king of Chambord was the second. This discovery made the mysterious man's lips twitch subconsciously. He started to wonder if what he was doing was right. Was what he was doing beneficial to the empire? This king was going to mature in little time, and what was going to happen? Would what happened 20 years ago reoccur? Would the history repeat itself? Should I just listen to one of my friends and cut the wings off of this eagle before it soars into the sky and dominates it? The man thought. At this moment, this mysterious and powerful man hesitated a little and doubted his choice for the first time. The king of Chambord's speed of cultivation scared him. The more he knew about this young king, the more he was terrified by the hidden potential in that young body. It was hard to imagine how much impact this young king would have on the empire and the entire continent if he unleashed all of his potentials. Elder? Sorry for keep you waiting. As the mysterious man was doubting himself, Faye's surprised and intimate voice disturbed him. The mysterious man looked up and saw Faye's clear and pure eyes. The eyes were clear like the river, and the mysterious man didn't see any dominating ambitions. And he didn't see any fear and fawn people would have towards powerful masters. There was only completely trust that a disciple would have towards his master. How long has it been since I saw a pair of eyes like this? The mysterious man asked himself. For some reason, a strange feeling hit him, and his heart that was always cool, calm, and collected felt a little guilty all of a sudden. The fact that this young king trained and rested in front of me was enough to show his trust in me. Why did I have that kind of idea all of a sudden? What is going on? Sit. After a moment of distraction, the mysterious man pointed at a huge piece of rock that was 1 meter tall beside him and said. Before Faye could react, the man sat on one side of it first. The man felt like he had to talk to the king a little bit more. This was the first time that this mysterious man made a gesture. This surprised Faye a little, and Faye sat beside the mysterious man happily. Actually, Fei had a lot of questions that he wanted to ask. However, his attitude towards the mysterious man changed from the initial hostility to fear and to respect. He lowered his guards unconsciously, and he treated this man as his teacher. After all, his level 54 barbarian instinct told him that the powerful and mysterious man in front of him wasn't an enemy. Elder, thank you for your 2 notes. They led me into a new world. After seeing that the mysterious man was silent and didn't say anything for a while, Fei initiated the conversation as he took out the 2 notes from his storage space and handed them to the mysterious man. Eh? The man frowned. Oh, I already remembered all the techniques recorded in the notes. So, you can keep them. Thanks, but since they were written by Emperor Yasin, they are extremely valuable. Although I don't know how you got them, I know that it would be a lot of trouble for you if the Emperor found out that his notes in the Royal Library went missing. Plus, I already learned most of the techniques, so I shouldn't be greedy and keep them to myself. After a moment of silence, the mysterious man lightly waved his hand, and the 2 notes in Fei's hand flew back to him after a dash of green light. Offended Imperial Night Palace, slapped Prince Crystal, shamed big families, wiped out Blood Edge, the mysterious said slowly after another long silence. It seemed like that all of Fei's activities were known by the man. Before the man finished talking, he asked Fei a question. You are not a murderous person. Why not use smarter and clever methods to deal with these issues? Too troublesome. Fei answered honestly after he thought about it for a while. Since I'm already the underdog, any other kinds of response would be seen as signs of weakness. If I backed off 1 step, they would walk up 10 steps. Eh? The mysterious man wasn't surprised by Fei's answer. It seemed like he already knew this was what Fei was going to say. However, the man didn't say anything else. He was waiting for Fei to continue. Hedgehogs have spikes around their bodies, and porcupines have poisons on their backs. These animals have these defense mechanisms to scare off some of their enemies. These are the only methods that the weak animals have. My image in other people's eyes is crazy, like a beast that is not scared of any kind of consequences. This would scare the people who want to reach their claws into Shambord. People who want to do that would need to prepare for the counterattack. Fei paused a little when he said that. After seeing the mysterious man didn't get angry, he continued. From my perspective, the only weapon the weak people have is the courage to fight back and the willingness to go down together with the enemies. This would make the powerful people really think before they do anything. Be willing to go down together with the enemies? The mysterious man murmured. A long period of silence followed. After some time has passed, a strange smile appeared on the mysterious man's face. It was the first time that Fei saw an emotion on this man's face. The mysterious man looked up at the sky, and his eyes wandered around the stars. As if he was thinking back to a long time ago, he murmured slowly and quietly, Yeah, the courage to fight back. The time passed by too fast. Another person said similar words many years ago. Just like you, he said it me in a similar situation. In addition, he actually followed through, and he was more impressive. Elder, are you talking about Emperor Yasin? For some reason, the word Yasin jumped out of Fei's mouth subconsciously as he heard that. Eh? The mysterious man was surprised. Yeah, it was him. The man was silent after he said that. He didn't expect the young king to be so similar to that man. Maybe the young king and the emperor were the same kinds of people. No one would know that when the mysterious man was watching over Fei for the last while. He felt like the time flowed backward for 30 years and he was witnessing that genius warrior's climb. I'm similar to Emperor Yasin? Fei was a little surprised. It was the first time that he heard such a comment. Eh? The mysterious man nodded. After that, it was another long silence. But after the man looked up again and saw the young king's confused yet proud expression, he suddenly realized something. His expression turned serious as he said, You can't act like him? Ah, Fei was confused even more. It was the first time that the mysterious man emphasized on something. The tone was really commanding. However, Fei didn't find that off-putting. He could feel a vague, caring attitude behind the serious and commanding words. That touched Fei a little. The mysterious man lightly shook his head and suddenly stood up. In the next moment, a murderous spirit shot out of his body. As if he changed into another person, no more intimacy could be felt from him. Dashes of green warrior energies circled around him as his body enlarged a little. He returned to the emotionless state that he was in when Fei first met him on the battlefield, and he said lightly, "Attack!" Same thing, 10 strikes. This time, I'm going to unleash all of my power. Fei was a little surprised, but he nodded as he stood up. He knew that since the man didn't want to talk anymore, he couldn't get anything out of him even if he tried. What happened tonight already surprised Fei. He thought that he would never be able to have a conversation with this mysterious man who only said 1 to 2 words at a time, but who knew that this mysterious man actively engaged in a conversation with him. Although the conversation was controlled by the mysterious man and Fei didn't get all of the information that he wanted, this conversation did give him some hints. At least Fei now knew that this man was very close to Emperor Yasin, and this man knew the Emperor for a long time. Who was this man? Fei was still asking himself that question before he punched out. The second day. The sun was up, and there were no clouds in the sky. The weather itself was much better. Northern Battle Region. The opponent of Chambord today was the level 3 affiliated kingdom Cadiz. The Cadiz kingdom wasn't strong. They only advanced yesterday because they were lucky enough to get a level 6 affiliated kingdom as an opponent. However, their luck today wasn't that great. Soon, it was proved that the outcomes of the matches were within everyone's expectation. Even though the Cadiz kingdom was brave and didn't surrender to Chambord, who was stronger than them, they weren't able to take one match off of Chambord. It was good that the warriors of Chambord were peaceful and didn't kill anyone. Some of the warriors from other kingdoms would kill when they got the chance. The Cadiz kingdom entered the losers bracket and would try their luck there. The matches only took about 50 minutes. Chambord won again in the second day cleanly and advanced to the top 12 in the region. Since the performance of Chambord was so outstanding yesterday, and there were a lot of mysteries surrounding Chambord and its king, many traveling poets decided to retell the stories using their usual exaggerating ways in pubs and areas where there were a lot of people. Today, a lot of people already heard of the nicknames such as White-Haired Fast Sword, Black-Haired Vicious Fist, Desperation Creator, Destructive Fingers, Son of Wind, and Deadly Assassin of Shadow, and there were more than 2,000 people here today watching Chambord's matches. The number of people here was even more than some of the matches between level 1 affiliated kingdoms. The people in the crowd were squished against one another, and the atmosphere was hyped. God, who can tell me where is White-Haired Fast Sword? A sword. Too fast. I can't. A swordsman looked at his own sword depressed. He couldn't imagine how fast a sword needed to be so that the opponent can't even see it. Aha! Son of Wind is too cool. He looks like an elf when he pulled on his bow. He is my idol. An archer with a full beard shouted after he watched Tora's battle. Scenes like these occurred all the time in the crowd. Some of these people thought that the stories told by the traveling poets were a little exaggerated, but they now all believed that the poets were telling the truth. Most of the people in the crowd were low-level warriors, and some of them weren't even star warriors yet. These people were all from low-level affiliated kingdoms, and the fact that Chambord, who was also a low-level affiliated kingdom, had such strong power won over their acceptance. Especially after they saw Chambord soldiers knocking the soldiers of Cadiz kingdom off of the stage using the heavy shields. The people in the crowd exploded in cheers. They felt like they won the matches themselves, and their blood was boiling. The only thing that disappointed the crowd was that the legendary king of Chambord didn't participate in the matches today. They didn't even see the young king in the resting area. Where was the king of Chambord? Fei was watching another match. With a black cloak, he was able to cover his identity, and he was watching a heated match in the Western Battle region with Angela, who was also in a cloak. The level 1 affiliated kingdom maze was really unlucky. They countered a level 1 affiliated kingdom yesterday, and they encountered another level 1 affiliated kingdom, Lodi, today. After the tough matches in the first day, the strength of Maze decreased dramatically. The first 3 master warriors who participated in the individual matches today didn't win. One died, and the other 2 were severely injured. It seemed like there was a lot of resentment between the Lodi kingdom and the Maze kingdom. The warriors of Lodi were very cruel when attacking. The 4th individual match. The warrior from Lodi's side was Plainik, the man who was named the #1 warrior of Lodi. He was a handsome and tall swordsman. He was in a blue suit, and his long hair fluttered in the wind. With a heavy sword on his shoulder, he walked up and dashed onto the sword-testing stage in the loud cheers of the Lodi soldiers. The handsome swordsman had a very arrogant expression on his face, and the red warrior energy flame that enveloped his body soared into the sky. Aside from turning the stage into the color red, there were 5 star swirls inside the flame. These 5 star swirls circled around Plainik, and they represented the 5-star warrior identity of him. A 5-star warrior who was less than 30 years old? He would be considered a genius warrior on Azeroth. The more powerful Plainik was, the more pressure May's kingdom faced. Plainik stood on the stage with his heavy sword, and he pointed his thumb down to provoke at Maze even more. After that, he spat onto the ground in the direction of Maze and stepped it. His flaming tactic worked. For a moment, no one at Maze dared to go on stage to battle. Under the lead of some of the Lodi warriors, thousands of people in the audience started to laugh, and some of them even started booing, "I don't like that guy." Angela suddenly got close to Faye and whispered it into Faye's ear. Her sweet scent went into Faye's nose, and it was little ticklish. She was holding onto Faye's hand with her smooth and soft hands, and she must have felt that Plainik wasn't behaving like a true warrior. "Of course you can't like him. You can only like me." Faye squeezed Angela's hands a little as he joked. "No. I mean, he is too arrogant." Angela explained herself with a blush. "But many people said that I'm arrogant as well." Faye continued to tease her. "So you don't like me as well?" Angela was a little surprised, and then she squeezed Faye's hand as hard as she could. In the crowd, the big and the little figure were both covered in the black cloaks. The hat on the cloaks covered over 2/3 of their faces, and they were able to tease each other and play with each other freely. It felt like they were a young couple in high school. Faye suddenly felt like he was back to his previous life, and he was standing next to the girl who he had a crush on in high school. That little nervousness, that little excitement, and that little blush. The only thing was that the girl who Faye had a crush on didn't really pay attention to him. Now, the beautiful girl beside him was completely focused on him. Under such comparison, Faye felt like the pure girl beside him right now was even more important to his life. The first time Faye felt good about coming to this world was when he first saw Angela. Although he never told her that, Faye had made a promise to himself that he would be around this girl and protect her for the rest of his life. As the two of them were intoxicated in the sweet feelings between them, changes occurred. Suddenly, all of the noises around the stage disappeared. Everyone in the crowd closed their mouths, including the warriors of Lodi who started it all. In fact, these warriors didn't even dare to look up at the stage. Faye was surprised by all of this, and he looked up. A person in a rough robe slowly walked out of May's kingdom's resting area. This man wasn't tall and he wasn't big. He was carrying a normal-sized sword on his back. The sword was half-rusted and had chipped blades. As he walked toward the stage, no power sensation could be felt from him, let alone warrior energy flames. Like an ordinary person, he used the stairs on the stage and slowly climbed up. He looked like a powerless civilian. The half-rusted sword also looked more like a blade for cutting firewood rather than enemies. However, no one dared to treat this man as an ordinary person, and no one dared to treat this blade as a tool of a lumberjack. Everyone knew who he was. Everyone knew who that blade had killed. Faye's pupil contracted as he recognized the man. One Sword. He was One Sword, the elder prince of May's kingdom, and the #1 warrior among all affiliated kingdoms. Even Arshavin and Dominguez, who were both princes of the empire, tried to get this man on their sides. On the peak of East Mountain in Chambord, this man broke the devastating killer trap set up by Paris and 5 master warriors using only one strike. Before the rise of Faye, One Sword was the only legend. Everyone knew that his level was high, but no one knew exactly how powerful this man was. Since One Sword only used one strike in every battle he was involved in, and no one was ever able to survive that one strike from that one sword, no one was able to estimate his strength. That was also where his nickname, One Sword, came from. Now, One Sword was finally up on the sword testing stage. The fame and invincible stories about this man made everyone in the crowd stay quiet. Fei laughed. He knew that the outcome of this battle was already determined. On the peak of East Mountain at Chambord, one sword was already able to easily defeat the 5-star warrior Danny, whose nickname was Hidden at Snow Peak, and other 4 assassins who were strong as well. Currently, the swordsman in blue was only a 5-star warrior, and he was no match to one sword. However, no one anticipated one sword's first movement when he got onto the stage. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. More than a dozen sword-shaped warrior energies flew out of one sword's body as he lightly shook his shoulders. Ah! After a series of screams, more than a dozen heads soared into the sky. At the same time, more than a dozen streams of blood spurted out in the audience. People in the crowd were terrified, and they made space for the headless corpses. The people who were killed were the Lodi soldiers who made the most noise when mocking the Maze Kingdom. All 16 of them were headless, and their limbs were still twitching. They were really weak, and they couldn't defend against one sword's sudden attack. A noise-piercing bloody smell dispersed around the stage. When Fei saw Angela covering her nose, he frowned and waved his hand. The 16 corpses got lifted by an invisible force, and they were placed back into Lodi Kingdom's resting area. All of the blood on the ground was cleansed, and the nose-piercing smell was mostly gone. One sword who was on the stage sensed something and looked down at Fei and Angela, who were still hidden in the audience. One sword's eyes lit up as if he was thinking about something. "Hey, you are one sword?" Plainik moved his sword off of his shoulder as he observed his opponent carefully. He suddenly laughed. "I thought you were much more powerful, but you seem all right. Hee hee. Make your move. Let me see if you really don't use the second strike." As he finished speaking, the power sensation coming off of his body got more intense. The red warrior energy flame grew bigger. Fei's pupil contracted again. Although what happened was sudden, he was still able to tell that Plainik's sensation got strange. It felt like Plainik had taken some substance that increased his power in the short term. However, Fei, who was a half-ass potion maker, could even tell that the side effects of this kind of substances were serious. It looked like the Lodi Kingdom had really tried to win this match. Ha ha ha. One sword. Your legend ends today. Plainik slowly walked toward one sword as he adjusted his internal state. His warrior energy got more and more vicious as his warrior energy flame got less transparent and more vigorous. Soon, the audience could only see a blurry figure. In comparison, one sword was really average. He was just standing there without any warrior energy surges or energy flames. He didn't even look at the opponent who was charging at him. Rather, he was focused on the 2 figures who were under the cover of 2 black cloaks. It seemed like one sword was thinking about something else that was irrelevant to this battle. Idiot! Getting distracted during battle? Underestimating me? Die! Plainik roared as he dashed forward even faster. He instantly got over the 20-meter distance and struck his huge mountain-like sword at one sword. In the split second, it seemed like the tip of the sword was about to pierce into one sword's forehead. The wind created by this powerful strike already blew on one sword's hair, and the hair that was tied together by a rough rope fluttered. It was a really lethal attack. Fei could tell that this was a powerful combat technique. It allowed Plainik to instantly get close to the opponent and unleash all of his force in one strike. As one sword was about to get his head penetrated, he lightly raised his right arm. The movement looked extremely slow, but it created a series of afterimages in the air. In the next second, one sword's right hand touched the handle of the half-rusted sword on his back. Whoosh! As soon as the hand touched the handle, a sword-shaped energy dashed out. All of the red warrior energy flames that came with Plainik's attack suddenly froze in midair. The tip of Plainik's sword was only about 1 inch away from killing one sword. With all of his power, Plainik was so close to killing this famous warrior and becoming the new #1 warrior among all affiliated kingdoms. However, this 1-inch distance looked like it was going to take an eternity to get through. This? No. A stream of blood slid down Plainik's lips, and the red color contrasted with the pale face. The life energy was leaking out of his body in an uncontrollable manner. Puff! Blood exploded out of Planek's chest, and he got turned into a blood man. He shouted as his body started to shake. I wore treasury battle armor. No weapon could penetrate it. You didn't even pull your sword, you? He stuttered as he couldn't believe what had happened. You are not worthy enough. After one sword said that, he turned around and walked down the stage as if nothing had happened. The man only touched his sword and didn't even pull out the sword. That alone was enough to destroy his opponent, who carefully prepared for this for a while. This kind of power was unheard of. Boom! After one sword took his fourth step, a cloud of blood mist appeared on the stage. The former number 1 warrior of the Lodi kingdom, Planek, died. His body exploded, and his blood and flesh spilled everywhere. The heavy sword that belonged to Planek fell to the ground, and the sword itself got split in half from the tip to the handle cleanly as a metal colliding noise sounded. It almost sounded like the sword was crying. Actually, the sword energy from one sword cut the heavy sword in half from the beginning. But because it was so fast, the body of the heavy sword still held together. It only broke in half when it landed on the ground. Fei closed his eyes and replayed that strike from one sword again and again in his head. There was only one feeling: fast. It was unbelievably fast. Among everyone in the crowd, Fei was the only person who saw what went down. One sword touched his sword and pulled it out halfway. A dash of sword energy that wasn't eye-catching shot out from the half-rusted sword and cut through everything. It first cut through the heavy sword made from purified iron that was forged over 100 times, and it then cut into Planek's body. Although this former number 1 warrior of Lodi was wearing a treasury battle armor that was made from gold strings and was supposed to block damage from ultra-sharp weapons and warrior energies, it wasn't able to block one sword's sword energy. That dash of sword energy looked really ordinary. Just like one sword and his rusty sword, it wasn't surprising nor special in terms of its appearance. It looked like a dash of candlelight at best. However, it was capable of cutting through everything. Such a terrifying person, such a terrifying sword. Such a terrifying sword energy. Fei gasped subconsciously and felt like he had underestimated the geniuses on this continent. I look forward to battling you. One sword, who was in the spotlight, suddenly stopped as he said that. He looked at one person in the audience and shook his shoulder. A dash of sword energy that didn't contain any murderous spirit shot at the person. Tink! A hand grasped the sword energy. When the sword energy and the hand met each other, a metal colliding noise sounded. In the next second, the hand squeezed the energy forcefully and broke it. Fei lifted the part of the cloak that was covering his face, and he responded, Want to challenge me? Get to the kingdom ranking matches first. He is sky-covering fist, the king of Chambord. Some people in the crowd gasped. Many people were wondering why one sword, who didn't see anyone as an opponent, would actively challenge someone, and many people were shocked after seeing a hand breaking one sword's sword energy. But after people heard the gasps, they all understood what was going on. They realized that the man in the black cloak beside them was the king of Chambord, who was rumored to be the new number 1 warrior among all affiliated kingdoms. No wonder the king's nickname was Sky-Covering Fist. Everyone knew that the king's strength was on another level after he broke one sword's sword energy with one hand. Many people knew that there would be a fight between the king of Chambord and one sword. It was the destiny of warriors. But from the look of it, the battle that everyone was thinking about was going to arrive soon. After his identity was revealed by one sword, it didn't make much sense for Fei to stay here and be looked at like a rare animal. After all, he already saw the magnificence of one sword's techniques. Therefore, he held onto Angela's hands and walked away. The people in front of them all moved aside and made a path for them as the people stared at Fei in fear, respect, and curiosity. The two of them were walking really slow, but they suddenly disappeared after they walked out of the crowd. Everyone opened their eyes wide, and they couldn't spot them anymore. One sword was silent as he watched Fei and Angela walk away. He then turned around and looked at the resting area of Lodi, and no Lodi warrior dared to look back at him. This simple look destroyed the morale and momentum of the Lodi kingdom. In the next 2 individual matches, the Maze Kingdom turned them around and won both matches. In the team matches, One Sword, who rarely showed himself, took on the role of the general and participated in the matches. With the presence of One Sword, the 49 soldiers of Maze were overjoyed, and they easily won the 4 team matches. After this, the Maze Kingdom became one of the top 12 kingdoms in the Western Battle region. One Sword and Sky-Covering Fist were going to meet each other soon. When Faye and Angela left the Western Battle region, it was still early. It wasn't even lunchtime yet. Since this was the first time that Faye and Angela spent time alone, they were having a great time. They didn't rush back to Chambord's campsite. They wandered around in the camp area. Angela liked noisy and busy areas where there were a ton of merchants selling different stuff, and she dragged Faye around to try to see everything. After some time, Angela dragged Faye towards the Eastern Battle region where a lot of intense battles were taking place. She knew that Faye's purpose today wasn't just to chill. Ha 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 ha. You ant-like low-life. How dare you challenge me? An ear-piercing and arrogant voice sounded from a sword-testing stage close by. Faye and Angela both looked that way, and they saw a man in a fancy silver armor standing on the stage with both of his hands on his waist. In front of him, a hulky warrior was on the ground facing up. The warrior's throat was sliced. Listen, I can easily kill the king of Chambord and One Sword. Anyone who challenges me would die. My goal is to become the #1 warrior of the empire. The young man didn't hide his arrogance at all as he made that announcement to the crowd. Easily kill the king of Chambord and One Sword? Are you high? Where are you when they made their names heard? Someone sneered in the crowd. Who was that? Stand the fuck out. The young man was infuriated. He looked down at the crowd and locked his eyes onto Faye and Angela. Hey, you two, yeah, you guys. Stop right there. What are you looking at? It must be you guys who said that. All dressed in black. You guys don't look like some nice people. How dare you guys slander me? This arrogant, violent, and rude warrior was really short-tempered. As he said that, he was about to jump off of the stage and attack. But in a split second, he couldn't spot the 2 people anymore. As if they used some unknown magic, they were nowhere to be seen. Why are we leaving? I thought you were going to teach him a lesson. After they left, Angela leaned her soft body against Faye and asked, My mission today is to spend time with my beautiful queen. I'm not here to fight. Faye laughed as he tapped the girl's nose. Although that young man in fancy silver armor was extremely arrogant, Faye could tell that his strength was not bad. Faye even sensed a little danger, as if that young man had some hidden power. The idiotic arrogance that young man put out was probably a fake persona. If Faye wasn't wrong, that young man was able to get into the final kingdom ranking matches. There was a high chance that Faye will encounter him there, and Faye would have all the time in the world to teach him lessons. Faye and Angela wandered around the battle region. After about 10 minutes, a series of sharp screams sounded in front of them. These screams were like the screams of a beast who was about to die. It sounded terrifying and horrific. Afterward, loud gasps of the crowd sounded. Then, nose-piercing blood smell dispersed into the area. It was so thick that it felt like it was blood flowing in the air rather than the smell of it. Ah, what is this smell? It stinks. What happened? Angela frowned. Faye looked forward at a sword-testing stage. There was a battle going on. A purple figure was dashing around in a circle, and his footwork was so fast that he left dashes of phantoms in the air. The 2 strangely shaped blades in his hands flashed around as they cut at a cloud of blood mist that was in the center of the circle. After Faye took a closer look, he was shocked. Inside of the blood mist, there was a person who had no more skin on his body. Every time the purple figure waved the blades, a small piece of flesh that was about the size of the fingernail would fly out of his opponent's body. In less than 10 seconds, the purple figure already struck out more than 100 times. The opponent wanted to dodge, but he wasn't able to get away from the tornado-like blades. The battle was in complete control of the purple figure, and the man in the center of the blood mist can only scream, cry, and die. After 20 seconds, the purple figure finally stopped and drew back his blades. Now, the man that was in the center of the blood mist and rotating around stopped as well. He was more than just dead. He got turned into a clean and white skeleton. Not a bit of blood or flesh could be seen on it. Clank! The skeleton fell to the ground and broke into many pieces. Such a cruel technique. Fei lightly frowned. That purple figure was extremely fast, and his technique was also strange. His control of the blades was on another level as he was able to clean all of the flesh off of that person that fast. It was obvious that this purple figure was much stronger than his opponent, and he was able to win this match using only one strike. However, he used the cruelest way of all, and he made more than 100 cuts on his opponent. This man was a sick psycho, but undoubtedly he was also a master warrior. Fei didn't stay at this stage for too long, and he left with Angela soon. The scene there was too bloody, and he was afraid that his fiancée would get frightened. This was the destiny of warriors on the Azeroth continent. You either kill others or get killed by others. If one wanted to survive on this continent, he or she would have to get stronger and stronger. That was the only way to protect the people and things that he or she loved. After Fei and Angela walked forward for a little, they saw another sword-testing stage that was crowded with many people. People were cheering, and thunder-liking clapping noises resonated in the area. Fei took a look, and the person on the stage was the young king of Byzantine, Constantine. Fei stopped and watched from afar. The opponent was a tall and bulky warrior. The man was using a pair of cast-iron hammers, and the stage would shake every time the hammers hit the ground. Even though the warrior was powerful, Constantine was not having a hard time. This young king was stable yet agile. He was wearing a light silver armor, and he had a pair of iron gloves that had backward hooks on them. Although his punching speed wasn't fast, beast-roaring noises would sound alongside it. I didn't expect Constantine to achieve this level in such a short time. His 7 Injures fist has contained a little tiger howls and dragon roars. It represents the first level mastery. 1 punch 7 injuries. Although that Hulk potion improved his body, he was a talented warrior, Fei thought. He was a little surprised by how far Constantine got with the 7 Injures fist. However, this 7 Injure fist was a technique that would injure oneself before injuring the opponent. To achieve this level of mastery, Constantine's internal organs must have suffered some damage. Fei told everything to Constantine from the beginning, and this young king still chose to cultivate using this technique. There must have been something that he wanted to protect dearly, and that was the reason why he wanted to get strong very fast. As Fei was thinking, the scale of victory already tilted towards one side. Constantine punched onto the opponent's chest, and the raised hammers of the opponent couldn't strike down as a tiger howling and dragon roaring noise sounded. Blood flowed out of the 7 opening on the opponent's face, including mouth, nostrils, ears, and eyes. After a short pause, the man fell down to the ground like a tree that got chopped down. Bam! Bam! The hammers of the tough man fell to the ground, and the noise woke up the people who were still in shock. Suddenly, cheering and clapping erupted like a volcano. The audiences favored this young king. Constantine bowed at the audiences politely, picked up the hammers that were on the ground, and walked down the stage. It was this young king's little hobby to collect his opponent's weapons. Before this battle, he got the spear of another warrior from another kingdom. Although these weapons were not god-tier weapons, they were treated by Constantine like treasures. Maybe one day when he had the word emperor in his name, there would be a huge library that would showcase these weapons that represented his cultivation path. Constantine walked toward the resting area of Byzantine, and he didn't spot Fei and Angela who were cheering him on in the crowd. In the resting area, the beautiful Queen Isabella rushed out and hugged her husband. Then, she wiped the sweat off of Constantine's forehead. She was worried and glad at the same time. Every time Constantine went on the sword-testing stage, Isabella would feel like the time passed by extremely slowly, and her heart would race as fast as it could. She knew that her lover was the king and he had to represent and bring honor to his loyal subjects. But as a wife, she wished her lover would never have to step on that vicious and dangerous sword-testing stage again. Those were two really contradicting mentalities. No one can be certain that the young king would win all the battles he was in. After all, Constantine wasn't the two legendary warriors, one sword, who only used one strike, nor sky-covering fist, who was mysteriously powerful. After thinking of the king of Chambord, Isabella can't thank him enough. She remembered clearly that it was a chilly night with a heavy snowfall. If it wasn't for the king of Chambord, she might have become the toy of Blood Edge, and her lover might have died in battles. It was because of the king of Chambord's generosity that her and Constantine's fate changed. So did the fate of Byzantine kingdom. Faye and Angela didn't walk up and say hi to Constantine. After they watched this match, they walked towards another battle region like ordinary people. Let's go. The number 1 goddess of the affiliated kingdoms is going to appear on number 14 stage. Number 1 goddess? Is it the iceberg-like Princess Cindy from the Bulin kingdom? Of course it is her. Who else can be called the number 1 goddess of the affiliated kingdoms? Ah! Don't pull on me. I need to get a good spot. The noisy crowd started to rush toward one particular sword testing stage. Faye only saw this before in his previous life when a celebrity appeared on the street. Many people in the crowd got stepped on and lost their shoes, and some traveling poets who were leading the rush got pulled back by people and got their robes ripped. The least fortunate people fell down and got stepped over by many other. They almost died. It was chaotic. Let's see who dares to call herself the number 1 goddess of affiliated kingdoms. It is definitely my Angela who deserves that name. Faye teased his fiancée as he pulled on her hands. A light, invisible force emitted from his body, and no one could get too close to them. Soon, the two of them got to the number 14 sword testing stage. The stage itself was surrounded by more than 4,000 people, and it was packed. This was more than the audience at Chambord's and other level 1 affiliated kingdoms battles. Some of the overconfident young men already had gifts and roses in their hands as they cheered on Cindy's name. Faye lightly exerted some of his force and created some space. He didn't want Angela to get squeezed. Before the match began and before Cindy got on stage, the atmosphere was already at a climax. From the chatters around him, Faye heard that the Bulin kingdom was a mid-tier level 3 affiliated kingdom, and they weren't the crowd favorite. But during the match yesterday, Princess Cindy of Bulin unbelievably killed a master warrior of a level 2 affiliated kingdom with one strike. That shocked a lot of people, and Matt Razy, who was the number 1 traveling poet of the Empire, walked by and commented that Princess Cindy would be a top 3 candidate in the kingdom ranking matches. Matt Razy was never wrong, and that made Princess Cindy, who was already pretty, gain a lot of fame. Some of the traveling poets gave her the name number 1 goddess of affiliated kingdoms, and many men got a crush on her. In a short time, she gained a lot of popularity, and her fame was on par with the two legends, One Sword and the King of Chambord. Matt Razy said that she is going to be in the top 3? Faye was a little surprised. Matt Razy appeared when Faye was battling the Executive Knights. Although the man didn't show much of himself, Faye knew that this man was very powerful with hidden strength. The man who was named as the number 1 traveling poet of the Empire must have a great observation and identification skill. Since Matt Razy gave such high praise, this Princess of Bulin must have got some tricks up her sleeves. As people around him talked more and more, Faye got a little interested in this girl. Soon the matches started. In the first few rounds, the participants from the Bulin kingdom were all men. They won 2 out of the 5 individual matches. The performance was really average, and Faye was getting a little impatient. Suddenly, a red figure appeared on the stage. Princess Cindy. She was absolutely beautiful, like a goddess. Even her frowning expression moved a lot of men. The red magic armor protected her arms and torso, and her slender waist was exposed. Her red skirt covered her butt and 1/3 of her legs, and the rest of her legs were naked but protected by the red magic energy emitting from the armor. Most of her red hair was tied behind her head by a white silky band, and some of the hair beside her face fluttered in the wind. What was the most eye-catching was a red wand that was about 150 centimeters long. There was a red magic gem inlaid in the wand, and it was about the size of a dragon's eye. A mage. Faye was surprised again. It was the first time that he saw a mage on the sword testing stages. Although mage was one of the dominating professions, there were a lot fewer mages than warriors. Mage was an expensive and noble profession. A lot of resources were needed to cultivate a mage, as the amount was comparable to equipping and maintaining a heavy cavalry troop. Therefore, there were a lot fewer mages in this competition, as any loss would be devastating. Faye didn't expect the Bulan Kingdom to have such a powerful mage. The armor this girl was wearing was a powerful magic set. Circles of red magic energies surged around Princess Cindy like the waves in the ocean, and Faye, who was a level 54 barbarian, couldn't clearly detect the level of her. She was someone who Faye had to respect. As if she sensed the stare, Cindy looked at Faye as lights flashed in her eyes. It was an advanced detection magic. Although the powerful magic rapidly scanned Faye's body, the Princess of Bulan shook her head. She thought she was hallucinating since she didn't discover anything. Faye, who was under the cover of the cloak, smiled. Only a master warrior like that mysterious man can see through his barbarian force field. In addition, there was a lot of difference between the power structure of the warriors and mages on Azeroth and the 7 professions in Diablo World. The 7 different kinds of power from Diablo World didn't contain any warrior energy or magic energy surge, so they were hard to detect. Faye soon left the number 14 stage with Angela. He didn't stay for the battle. The king was sure that Matt Razy was correct. This princess would definitely be able to get into the top 3. No one in the battle region posed a threat to her. Didn't expect to encounter so many powerful people when I just wanted to spend some time with Angela. Looks like this competition isn't as boring as I thought. Faye slowly got interested in the competition. After they wandered around other stages, it was already noon. Faye and Angela got to a nice restaurant and was planning to enjoy a peaceful lunch. As they sat down, the 4 main battle legions of the Empire, Whip of the Thunder Lord, Anger of the Fire Lord, Gigantic Legion, Blizzard Legion, that surrounded the camp area started to make moves as sky-shaking bugle noise sounded. Everyone in the camp area heard it. This bugle? Faye's expression changed color. This is the warning signal for a full-on war. What happened? This noise. Could it be that the battle between Spartax and Zenit on the frontier changed? Thunder-like bugle noise sounded throughout the camp area and the capital. Faye no longer was in the mood for a chill lunch. After he and Angela quickly ate some food, they returned to Chambord's campsite. Soon, a shocking news spread in the camp area. After more than half a month of battle around the border, the situation suddenly worsened. The troops of Spartax Empire suddenly broke through the defense line. Zenit sat up at the southern key location, Razor City, and one of the 10 main battle legions, Night Snow Legion, which had 20,000 elite soldiers, got wiped out. The second most famous general at Zenit, Boluanzhong, was not willing to retreat. He felt like he had failed the emperor's trust. He battled the enemy with his 100 guards and stayed at Razor City. Now, no one knew if he was dead or alive. In one night, Spartax Empire suddenly sent in reinforcement, and more than 60,000 elite Spartax soldiers pushed 150 kilometers into Zenit's territories. 3 southern regions of Zenit fell into the hands of Spartax. The political structure of the 3 regions got torn, and tens of thousands of officials and noble people got killed. The war had spread into the core of Zenit, and numerous homeless people and defeated soldiers rushed toward the capital. Without proper defense and hard terrain, Spartax soldiers pushed into Zenit like a hot iron stick that stabbed into a block of cheese. To Zenit, the situation turned to the worst. If the Spartax soldiers pushed forward for 150 more kilometers, they would be at St. Petersburg. The news shocked and scared a lot of people. That afternoon, the reports from the front line went into the military headquarters located in St. Petersburg's southern region. It was rumored that the generals of Zenit got scolded by Emperor Yasin. Right now, the generals and the high-up officials were anxious and worried. Because of the collapsed front line, a lot of nobles were blamed and locked up in the jail in Imperial Night Palace. Even though the old general Boluanzhong didn't retreat and fought the enemy, his family was under close monitor as well. As more and more scouts came in and out of the capital, more and more horses died of exhaustion in Zenit's territory. The people in the empire were all concerned. Some people said that the elite troops of Spartax were about to reach St. Petersburg, some people said that General Buluanzhong, who got captured, already surrendered to the enemy, and some people said that Emperor Yasin was about to die due to his illness. In the rumors that were passed around, the nobles were getting ready to run to the north to avoid the war, and Zenit Empire was about to collapse. Everything was just depressing. After the rumors came, the camp area got even more chaotic. More than 30 affiliated kingdoms from the south were affected the most. The kings and soldiers almost started a riot. Their kingdoms were in the south, and a lot of the kingdoms in the southern region of the empire were conquered by the troops of Spartax. The fire of war burned on their land, and their loved one were in a bad situation. The soldiers of Spartax were known as cruel and cold-blooded, and they had killed 100,000 civilians of Zenit before in one day. Since the grudge and hatred between the two empires were so deep, only bones and burned ground were left after the Spartax soldiers went through Zenit's affiliated kingdoms. Under such circumstance, some of the kings of the southern kingdoms were worried to their death. They were in no mood to finish the competition, and they had asked for permissions to go back to their kingdom, fight for the empire, and save their loved ones. The other kings were waiting for the empire to speak out. Some of the kings had strongly urged the empire to send reinforcement to the 3 regions that were being taken. Everyone wanted to get rid of the evil Spartax invaders. At this time, a name was talked about a lot: Zenit's god of war, Andruarshavin. At a time when Emperor Yasin couldn't lead the army due to his illness, many people rested their hopes on this god of war, who had killed numerous Spartax soldiers on the border of the two empires. Although Arshavin was only 35 years old, he had about 20 years of experience leading the military. The Iron Blood Legion was invincible under his command, and the Spartax soldiers were terrified of him. This man and his troop was the counter to Spartax. In a short time, the support for the elder prince skyrocketed. At the same time, the battle for the throne also changed dramatically. The two princes were in a 50-50 situation before, but the scale of victory suddenly tilted towards the Zenit's god of war, who people thought would bring victory to Zenit in this war against Spartax. Compared to the elder prince, who had a bright record, second Prince Dominguez was only a love child. He hadn't earned any merits since he came to St. Petersburg, and he only received investments and supports from nobles' families because he was loved by his father. But as the emperor's health conditions worsened day by day, the mad dog, second prince, was really about to lose the battle to Zenit's god of war, elder prince, especially after the empire ran into such a dangerous time. As chaos came to the camp area, the campsite of Chambord was very peaceful. One reason was that Chambord was located in the northern region. Even if St. Petersburg got conquered, Chambord would still be safe. That was one of the benefits of being in a remote and poor region. The nobles and wealthy kingdoms that looked down on Chambord now all wished to become bumpkins so they can avoid the war. Of course, the warriors of Chambord loved battles. People like Pierce, Drogba, and Oleg already expressed their interest in going to the front line and battling the enemies. Even Peterchek, who was a really considerate person, also thought about leading the bylaw enforcement officers and St. Sayas into the war. He believed that the real war would let the boys become men. This was what happened after these guys got much stronger. Their confidence skyrocketed. This also occurred because they had infinite trust in their king. Fei directly booted these guys out. He hated war. Even if war came, Chambord would be the last kingdom to be summoned to fight the war. Fei was absolutely right. As the entire capital and camp area were in chaos and people were anxious, order from Emperor Yasin and the military headquarters came before sunset. The elder prince Andruarshavin was named the head commander, and he was ordered to lead his Iron Blood Legion as well the 2 of the 10 main battle legions, Whip of the Thunder Lord and Anger of the Fire Lord, that totaled 50,000 soldiers to the battlefront in 3 days. After the order came out, the chaos mostly settled. Soon another order came out. The empire rejected the requests from the southern kingdoms who wanted to head back to their homeland and fight with the invaders. All of them were ordered to stay in the camp area and participate in the competition until it was over. Because of this sudden war, the competition was modified. The next round of challenge matches was cancelled, and the top 10 masters, as well as the top 5 kingdoms from each battle region, would enter directly into the kingdom ranking matches. After the competition was over, the 244 affiliated kingdoms would form one new legion and participate in the war against the Spartax Empire. The top 10 masters of the competition would be canonized as level 1 nobles, and they would get commanding roles in the newly formed legion. The track record and military merits the affiliated kingdoms could get in the war with Spartax would be used to promote and demote the kingdoms. The top 10 kingdoms with the most military merits would automatically become the new level 1 affiliated kingdoms. Just like that, the numbers and the structures of the affiliated kingdoms would stay the same, but the level of the kingdoms would change. To a certain degree, this patched the issue of the cancellation of the challenge matches. Also, it meant that a crazy era for the affiliated kingdoms came. The challenge matches in the competition were giving an advantage to the old powerful kingdoms. They had a lot accumulated strength, and their connections with the powerful forces in St. Petersburg allowed them to stay powerful forever. But since the ranking was now based on military merits, the weaker kingdoms had a chance to shine. All the accumulated strength of these powerful kingdoms was almost neglectable in a war. During the war, numerous people would be killed, and heroes would get the chance to rise. If the opportunity was right, even a small figure could become a legendary hero. To a lot of small kingdoms, this was their chance. This slim chance was something they were going to focus on. Compared with challenge matches, the small kingdoms had more chances in wars. For a moment, all the affiliated kingdoms were hyped for the upcoming war with Spartax in the south. The masters and kingdoms that could get into the top 10 and top 5 were getting ready for the final charge. They weren't just attracted to the noble status. They were more interested in the ability to command the legion that was going to form. Chambord was definitely a hot candidate for the leading position. As the outside world was getting noisy, Faye did something else. He called old Zolask and young Modric into his central tent. After 2 hours of secret conversion, the two of them left the Chambord's campsite with their belongings. Soon, the two people who were a part of Chambord's expeditionary force were nowhere to be found. In a few days, a new organization that was called Letter Office became active around the capital. No one knew who this organization belonged to. They only knew that this organization was very secretive, and they were looking for all kinds of useful and non-useful information. In addition, they were looking to hire people who had all kinds of skills. This organization soon caught the other force's attention. But after some spying, they learned that there were 3 people who were behind everything. These 3 people were always together. The old man and the young boy were normal people. They weren't strong warriors. However, there was a big mysterious person with a 5-colored mask on the face. This person never talked, but this person's strength was inestimable. The old man and the young boy were in charge of the operation of Letter Office, and the masked person was like a sharp sword that protected them. No one was able to survive after taking 1 strike from the person with the 5-colored mask, and no one knew where this person came from. Like an unsolved mystery, this person couldn't be identified. However, anyone who was in the way of the Letter Office was taken out by this person. As the war in the southern regions of Zenit got heated, as the military competition of Zenit was at its climax, only a few people knew that the underground forces at St. Petersburg got reshuffled. This was unknown to a lot of people. But to people who knew what happened, it was shocking like a loud thunder. It was opening the curtain to another bloody day. This thunder-like change took place really fast. In a short time, the mysterious organization Letter Office quickly acquired a few mercenary groups and other organizations by using the money from the old man and the young boy as well as the powerful strength of the masked person. Although it was still small, it established its ground. Like a poison that was odorless and colorless, it was quietly leaking into numerous forces around the region. In the 2 days, the preliminary matches were completed. After 4 days of battles, each of the 5 battle regions got their top 10 masters as well as the top 5 kingdoms. The masters and kingdoms that lost were getting ready to go to the southern regions of Zenit for the war, and the masters and the kingdoms that are placed got a day of rest before the kingdom ranking matches. The outcome of the kingdom ranking matches was important. The masters with higher ranks would get to have more control of the new legion. According to the military headquarters, the positions of the legion commander, as well as upper-level officials of this new legion, would all be filled by the masters and kingdoms representatives that were in the kingdom ranking matches. This alone was a delicious piece of meat, and none of the affiliated kingdoms in Zenith had gotten this chance since the establishment of Zenith. Because of this attractive offer, all the candidates of the kingdom ranking matches went crazy. Chambord was invincible in the northern battle region. They defeated everyone, including 2 powerful level 1 affiliated kingdoms and 3 top-tier level 2 affiliated kingdoms. Out of the top 10 masters in the northern battle region, 8 of them were Chambordians. At the same time, the 50 Saint Seiyas also got a record of 24-0. It was a legendary record, and Chambord got the number 1 position in the team matches in the region. The fact that a little level 6 affiliated kingdom became the only kingdom that didn't drop a single match among all affiliated kingdoms shocked everyone once again. The young king of Chambord, as well as the warriors under his command, became stories told by many traveling poets. Almost everyone knew about it. Powerful masters also appeared in other battle regions. The king of Byzantine, Constantine, became the 9th seeded master in the southern battle region, but his kingdom didn't get placed in the top 5 kingdoms and lost the opportunity to continue forward. The fire and wind dual warrior of the Gudong kingdom's warriors, Hork and Kenort, were the top 10 warriors of their battle region. Bloody Dual Blade, who turned 6 of his opponents into skeletons, was in the top 10, and Silver Armored Vicious Sword, who Faye met, was the number 1 warrior of the Eastern Battle Region. Prince Cindy of Bulin was the number 2 warrior of the Western Battle Region after 1 sword, 5 battle regions, 50 masters, and 25 kingdoms were going to compete the next day. In the last 4 days, more than 600 warriors died, more than 1,000 warriors got injured, and more than 2,000 normal soldiers suffered causalities. All these numbers were actually a lot lower. After all, since the war was coming, a lot of the kingdoms decided to go at it in a more peaceful manner. More strength should be saved for the invading enemies. However, the upcoming kingdom ranking matches were totally different. Since the commanding power of the new legion was up for grab, the matches would be bloody and cruel. During the rest day before the kingdom ranking matches, Zenith's God of War, Arshavin led Iron Blood Legion, Whip of the Thunderlord, and Anger of the Fire Lord to the gate of St. Petersburg for a pre-war ritual. The 3 legions that totaled more than 50,000 elite soldiers were going to go to the southern regions to take down the Spartax invaders. Except for the 3 legions, more than 100 royal mages were going to be with Arshavin as well. On top of that, for executive knights, White Cloud Knight, Shadow Knight, Bloodthirst Knight, and Punishment Knight would follow along with their 4 executive cavalries that were equipped to the teeth. The reinforcement to the south almost accounted for 1/5 of the Empire's military power. The troops were strong, and the commanding General Arshavin had never lost a war. For a moment, almost everyone got optimistic about the war. Before the reinforcement troops left for the south, Faye met up with Elder Princess Tanasha, who he last saw at Hot Spring Gate. This time, Faye was the one who asked her to meet up by going through the night Captain Romaine. Chambord's transformation wasn't completed yet. Before Chambord was strong enough to handle everything on its own, Faye's strategy was to hide under a big tree and enjoy the shade. Therefore, he couldn't let the big tree Zenith die. Although a lot of people were optimistic about Arshavin and believed that he could turn things around, Faye, who had lived a life before coming to Azeroth continent, knew that there wasn't a troop or a commanding general in the world that was truly invincible forever. During critical times, Faye knew that he needed to help the Empire out. His help was to provide a bunch of potions from Diablo World. Health Potion could save elite soldiers' lives, and it could allow the soldiers to fight for longer. Stamina Potion could instantly restore the vitality of the troops. Mana Potion could help the royal mages to regenerate their mana in a short time and turn battles around using their magic spells. The only thing that made Faye a little disappointed was that this goddess of intelligence wasn't even surprised when she received 30 bottles of Health Potion, 40 bottles of Stamina Potion, and 40 bottles of Mana Potion. Felt like she was expecting them. For a moment, Faye felt like he had been seen through by this noble and beautiful woman who looked a little ill. Although this princess looked a little ill, she didn't look like she was going to die soon. When Faye just met her, even the priest from the Holy Church said that she only had half a year to live. Perhaps the full rejuvenation potion Faye gave her worked. She looked a lot healthier compared to then. Alexander, the 2 formulas you gave me are really magical. The leading royal mage Lelouch and others had already made some potions. The only thing is that the success rates of the formulas are really low, and the effect of the potions aren't as stable. The potions they made aren't as effective as yours. After we ran some calculations, it seemed like the value of the potions barely surpassed the value of the ingredients and labor cost. The elder princess said to Faye with a smile on her face. The princess, who was really smart, already guessed that Faye had hidden something from her, and what she said was like a test. However, Faye only smiled back. The 2 formulas Faye gave her in Hot Spring Gate were customized by Akira and Kane. The 2 strategists of Faye tailored the formulas so that the healing effect decreased and the number of ingredients increased. Only Faye had the real formulas, and he wasn't going to give them out to anyone. Since the potions he gave to Xianxia just now were dilated by water and were just a little bit better than the potions other mages made, Faye was able to blame everything on the instability of the formulas. But since this war broke out, your formulas are really valuable. On top of that, you even supplied the Empire with these potions. These would all be big merits on Chambord's record. Xianxia changed the topic after she saw Faye's dull response. Thank you, Your Highness. Faye continued with his smile. Faye knew that this princess would be able to get information if he talked too much, so it was better for him to keep everything concise. It was obvious that this princess was on the side of Arshavin. Since Faye didn't want to go to that side, there was now an unavoidable invisible barrier between the 2 of them. In 3 hours, my brother Andrew is going to lead the legions towards the southern regions. Alexander, what do you think about the upcoming war? The elder princess was suddenly feeling a little down after Faye only smiled at her. She wanted to draw this young king to her party, but she somehow changed the topic as the words were about to be said. Zenith's god of war, His Highness, is invincible. He would definitely kill all the Spartax invaders. Faye said. Really? You really think that? Don't you think it is a little fishy that the Spartax troops suddenly broke through the defense line at Razor City? Before that, they couldn't get through it for 15 days. Faye was really surprised. So this princess mean? There are secrets behind this big loss that were intentionally covered. As Faye wanted to ask more questions, a team of cavaliers rushed by. The cavalier that got off of the horse first was Romain. After he greeted Faye politely, he whispered something into the elder princess' ear. The reinforcement troops are about to have the pre-war ritual. I need to leave. Oh right, I miss Angela. If there is time, please let Angela hang out with me at St. Petersburg. I think we have a special connection. The elder princess got up and said farewells to Faye. After she got on her magic carriage, she left for the ritual hosted by the Zenith's god of war Arshavin. She was guarded by the girl Zine, Romain, and Romain's cavalry team. Faye rubbed his chin as he watched her leave. What the elder princess said pointed to something huge and terrifying. Faye was actually thinking about that as well. Zenith had a lot of soldiers on the border, and so did Spartax. The 2 empires had similar numbers of soldiers. In addition, the general at Razor City was Buluanzhong, a famous elder general. Even though he wasn't aggressive and good at attacking as Arshavin, he was better at defending and guarding. Since both empires had frictions with each other, they knew each other's bottom line pretty well. Razor City was a great place for defense since it was really hard to conquer. That made the one-night collapse of Zenith's troops shocking. Unless Spartax Empire doubled the number of soldiers it had on the border, or there were criminals who committed treason within the city and opened the gate to the enemies. Neither of these explanations was good for Zenith. Now, Faye realized that his idea of constructing Chambord's own intelligence network by using Zolask's and Modric's talent was an extraordinary idea. Although the power of this network was still weak and couldn't help Faye out at the moment, it could grow rapidly. One day, it would give Faye information that others won't have. He would be no longer relying on other people's words to make estimations and judgments. He needed the best information to figure out the truth. Compared with truth, even the most accurate judgment was inferior. Faye thought about all of that as the elder princess and her people merged into the huge group of people in the ritual ceremony. When he turned around, he saw Paris, who was in her usual white dress. She was standing 10 meters away. She was looking at Faye with a weird expression. What? Your Majesty, are you switching side now since Arshavin got a stronger advantage? Is that why you are showing such generosity to the elder princess? Paris walked toward Faye as the usual coquettish smile appeared on the face that made numerous men fell in love. Although she was smiling, her tone was a little hostile. It was obvious that she saw Faye gifting potions to the elder princess. Faye pointed at the char beside him and signaled this demonic woman to take a seat. He then laughed and said, "You are mistaking. The Empire is in a critical time, and everyone has to support the Empire. I'm just doing what an affiliated king should do. You know, once if St. Petersburg falls, none of us can be safe and secure, I'm not going to sit on the seat that Tanasha sat on." Paris stared at Faye as she pulled the chair Faye was sitting on. After she sat down on that chair, she pointed at another chair further away and said, "You also can't sit on the chair she sat on." Faye curled his lips as he moved to the chair Paris was pointing at. He looked at the girl who was throwing a childlike tantrum and shook his head. He was a little scared of this intelligent yet playful woman. Who said the elder prince is at an advantage? Maybe a lot of people are supporting him right now, but these people can't ultimately determine who the throne is going to go to. Dominguez His Highness is still loved by Yasin His Majesty. Maybe when the elder prince gets the victory and comes back, the person sitting on the throne is the second prince. These types of situations happen too frequent in ancient Chinese history. For example, the elder prince of Qing first emperor, the first emperor of the first dynasty Qing of ancient China, was supported by the majority of the officials and nobles, and the prince had the control of more than 1 million soldiers. However, such a heroic figure got the throne robbed from him by his useless brother via schemes and tricks. That just went to prove that the battle of the throne happened on the political level and not on the battleground. After hearing Faye's word, Paris smiled and got very lovely. She leaned her body forward and looked at Faye with her big and shiny eyes. "So you favor Dominguez His Highness?" she asked softly. Faye's eyes slid down Paris' face and peeked at her cleavage subconsciously. After that, he quickly laid back in his chair and laughed. "Does it matter who I favor?" "Yes, it is really important." Paris detected what Faye did, and she laughed proudly. She laid back in her chair and switched back to a serious face. From the military order, the 244 affiliated kingdoms would need to come together and create a new legion, and the number 1 master in the kingdom ranking matches would be the commanding general of this legion. Alexander, you are one strong candidate for that position, and you might be the one who gets that power. Do you think that is not an important role? Haha. Yeah. I'm pretty important once you put it like that. Faye responded. As the sudden situations occurred, his status in the empire had changed dramatically. Before, he was an individual who only battled and fought with his own strength, and now he was like a major force at zenith that had an effect on the highest level. You sure not low-key about that. You should first try to see how you can become the number 1 warrior. There are too many young and talented warriors who made appearances in the competition thus far. They are all candidates for that number 1 position. Your opponent isn't just one sword. If I want to become the number 1, the rest of them can only watch. Faye's words expressed his absolute confidence in himself. This confidence came from Faye's powerful individual strength. Yeah, but it is not wrong to be more careful. Paris was shocked by the confidence that this young king had. A strange light flashed through her eyes, and she reminded Faye as she threw a thin booklet to Faye. The booklet was made with top-quality paper and craftsmanship. "Look it through, it might be of help," she said. "The estimated rankings and power-level masters from the 5 battle regions?" Faye flipped through the booklet and saw detailed records of all 50 masters that made into the final round of matches, including names, estimated power levels, breakdown of the combat techniques, battle styles, and habits. Faye saw his name first, then followed by One Sword and Princess Cindy of Bulin. Quirk and Kenort the Fire and Wind Dual Warriors, Bloody Dual Blade, and Silver Armored Vicious Sword, who all had the chance facing Faye, were all high up on the list. Constantine, the King of Byzantine, was ranked 33 on the list. Except for Faye, the highest-ranking master from Chambord was Destructive Finger Peterchek, who was ranked 13, and the lowest-ranking master from Chambord was deadly assassin of Shadow Filipinzaghi, who was ranked 41. Just from the ranking of these people alone, Faye was sure that the information recorded in the booklet had a lot of truth to it. After Faye read through everything, he saw a line of fine print on the last page. Zenith's #1 traveling poet Matt Razy's production. Limited to 100 copies. Selling price, 10,000 gold coins. Comma, damn, this guy again. Matt Razy's figure appeared in Faye's head. That guy must be a lover of money. No wonder his robe is flashy, and even his wine cup is made from gold. He sure knows how to make money the most efficient way. However, despite the greed, Matt Razy's judgment was very accurate, and Faye believed 80% of what was in the booklet. At this moment, a deep and loud bugle noise sounded. Faye and Paris both look in the direction of the noise, and they found that the pre-war ritual just finished. Captain Romain was named the Herald, and he led 3,000 cavaliers as the first group of reinforcement to the south. The thunder-like clattering horse-hoof noises resonated in the area as the 3,000 cavaliers rushed out of the ceremonial field and disappeared very fast.